The Chicago White Sox were dragged to the All-Star break, losing in extra innings to the St. Louis Cardinals on Sunday 4-3. Being mired in mediocrity would actually be an upgrade at this point. The White Sox are 16 games under 500 and are an embarrassment. The entire White Sox organization needs an overhaul, but the biggest decisions will most likely be made regarding several players at the deadline.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong die-hard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. After the break, our Chicago White Sox will head to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. State of the Sox. 38-54 at the break, 8 games back in the AL Central. Embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Obviously, nowhere near what we wanted from this White Sox team. Sox not just limped, but I think they got dragged. I mean, it wasn't even a crawl. They were just dragged somehow to this all-star break. It was ugly. Sox lost 2 of 3 to the St. Louis Cardinals on the south side to kind of end this first half, unofficial first half, actually, but that's kind of how we look at it. Since the rebuild happened in December of 2016, this right here, 2023, it's the second worst record at the All-Star break, second only to the 2018 season, a season where the Sox were definitely built to lose 100 games, and they did lose 100 games. Just White Sox are bottom of the barrel in just about everything offensively. 23rd in slugging, 27th in OPS, 22nd in batting average. Middle of the pack in home runs, but 22nd in runs, 29th in drawing walks, which you knew that. You didn't even need to hear that number. You just know it by watching the games. 12th in striking out. It's really ugly. I'll go over some of the pitching numbers, which are actually kind of a highlight later on in the episode. We'll go over some of the details of what happened this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But really, for this first segment, I want to recap a conversation I had on Saturday evening. I went to see a good friend of mine, known him for very many years. It was his 40th birthday party, and got to run into, I guess, some other friends of mine, diehard White Sox fans. We don't get to see each other as much as we'd like to. Perhaps you've got that similar situation in your life, and we're able to get together, and of course the conversation went right to the White Sox. How many times has that happened for you? You haven't seen somebody in a while, family member, friend, whatever, you run into them at the store, just out on the street, and it's like, you haven't seen them to talk White Sox baseball, and you go right to White Sox baseball, even though what we have to talk about is pitiful. And we went there. And these are guys that I have traveled all over the country with to see the White Sox in different stadiums. A lot of memories shared, a lot of great times. There's been some low periods, and we don't have a trip scheduled this season just yet, but boy, just talking about what has been going on, even though, again, we haven't seen each other, we haven't been together for much. We've all been experienced the Sox individually, in our own lives. And we came together and kind of swapped notes and tried to pick apart what has been going on. And a lot of it was just head scratching. Just how is this so bad? How did we get here? Talks of, what actually do the White Sox do well? That was something that James Fegan brought up in an Athletic article several months ago when the Sox were really struggling. I think it might have been during that 10-game losing streak, maybe just coming out of it. And what do they do well? And I still don't know. I mean, pitching is something that you could probably pinpoint in terms of, the starters, logging innings, striking guys out. Some of those numbers have been at the top of Major League Baseball, but that's, those are some few and far between. And we tried to peel some layers back with this team, and at the end, you just get to the same stuff. You get to this. How does this team get developed? And you forget even, and the draft is going on Sunday night, right? It's going to continue until Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have James Fox on later on this week to recap the entire White Sox draft. But how they draft, how they develop, and what their plan is for players when they actually get in a White Sox uniform. What's the game plan? Because right now this team, they do not take pitches, they do not get on base. And when they do get on base, they just cannot perform and execute. I guess with runners in scoring position, it's been probably better than you would imagine, but they just don't have as many opportunities because they're not getting on base. And the guys that you thought were going to be, your headliners, guys from the core that you thought were going to be carrying this team. It wasn't just going to be one like Luis Robert Jr. It was going to be several. And they weren't just going to have hot flashes like Jake Berger did. Or Moncada at the beginning of the season. And then where has he been? I don't know when we're going to see that guy. Yaz has had his moments with the bat, but power numbers have been weak. And I just don't think he can carry the load behind the plate, the way he wants to, especially for the entire season. Tim Anderson, lost, just absolutely lost. What can you really say? I mean, you can speculate, there's some personal stuff going on. That's weighed on him. I don't know why. I do not know why he is still hitting second in this lineup. Why is there still a spotlight on him? It took forever for Grifol, a first-time manager, to admit that, he should probably be moved out of the top spot, but he moved him to the second spot. And that has not done well at all for Tim Anderson or for this team. He's got to be moved down. And that brings me up to Grifol. And what did we expect from Pedro Grifol? This is Hahn's guy, first-time MLB manager coming from the Kansas City Royals organization. Yes, they had that World Series. What was it? 8 years ago, 7 years ago, and Hahn grinning from ear to ear when that hire was made. And I drank the Kool-Aid. Everything that Grifol said, this was going to be different. There was finally going to be some change. A guy from outside the organization was brought in. He's going to surround himself with smart people that are going to change the way this game is played. And hopefully the players will buy into it. Whether they've bought into it or not, I still don't know. The results are just not there. Maybe they did buy into it. Maybe they did say, maybe this first-time manager from the Royals organization might know what he's doing, or the hitting coach Castro, or bench coach Montoya, or whatever it may be. Maybe they did buy into it, but they just can't execute. Andrew Vaughn expected better from you. On and on and on. Here we are getting excited about Zach Remillard and what he means to this team. It's laughable. So at this conversation, at this gathering with some friends of mine that I've known, again, for well over a dozen, maybe 15 years, and we've experienced a lot of White Sox moments. It comes to that sad reality of this organization is not going to take the appropriate steps forward unless there is a complete ownership change. In whatever capacity that has to happen. And I don't know when that's going to ever happen. Uh, Obviously, Hahn and Kenny Williams need to go. They need to go. They needed to go a while ago. And I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe Rick Hahn will go and Kenny Williams will stay. I don't know if it's going to be both, but there absolutely needs to be change there. But will Jerry Reinsdorf just put in guys that, will appease Jerry Reinsdorf and the way he wants to do things? That's the sad reality that we ended up getting to. It was a wonderful conversation. It was good to just vent. But when we settled upon that towards the end, it was just like, when did the Bears start? Ultimately, I saw something from Sylvie, on Twitter after Sunday's loss, and he went on this whole thing saying, appropriate stuff that. Look, Hahn needs to go, Williams needs to go, and then Sylvie mentioned maybe Jerry Reinsdorf needs to go out and get Theo Epstein to run this team. And I'm like, I guess that's low hanging fruit, but you got to remember, I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf wants people in the building that have smart baseball backgrounds that are going to buck the system and tell Jerry Reinsdorf, hey, this is how things go in successful organizations. You need to change all of this stuff. We need to gut this entire organization. You need new departments doing this, doing that. We need eyes on, I don't think Jerry wants to deal with that. He doesn't want competing views. He doesn't want someone telling him how to go about his business. He's comfortable with Hahn and Williams. And unfortunately, that's how it's going to remain for the foreseeable future. White Sox lost a series to the St. Louis Cardinals. Yes, the St. Louis Cardinals. The offense continued to be an issue most of the weekend, but Giolito and Touque Toussaint, hey, they pitched pretty well. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life, we're faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get therapy and let it be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. The White Sox face off against the Atlanta Braves on Friday after the All-Star break. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. So we'll start here on Sunday, the most recent game. Sox fell to the Cardinals 4-3 in extras in 10 innings. And boy, you just knew it was going to happen, right? When the Sox went to extras, you just knew it. And again, the Cardinals only scored one run in extras, but still, the White Sox can't figure it out. Scott Merkin tweeted out that the White Sox are tied for the most extra inning losses and walk-off losses in the majors this season. Again, something that's surprising maybe when you see it in black and white like that, but when you think about it, you're like, I kind of could have guessed that by watching as many games. It has felt like that. This is Lucas Giolito. He was your starter on Sunday. This is a Giolito postgame on the White Sox. It's been rough. Haven't been able to really fire on all cylinders. A lot of close losses, which hurt. But I have faith with a few adjustments. We can make a good run in the second half. We'd have to get really hot. That's what it would take. If we were in another division, it would pretty much be over. That's kind of like the thing you hang your hat on. So if that's really the team's mentality of, you know what, hey, we're in the Central, so if we just kind of hang around and play the way we've been playing, everybody else is going to probably play the way they've been playing, and we might, be able to win this thing at the end of the day. I mean, what a ridiculous, it's the obvious thing. He's not lying, but what a ridiculous thing to hang your hat on. It's a sad state of affairs. Talking about, again, this run, like, we just need a few things to go right. They've been saying that for a while now, even last year. We just need, things could just go our way, some luck, guys get healthy, guys just get on on a streak. It's just not happening. We've seen enough. We've got a big enough sample size. This is Gio on his future. I'm going to enjoy this break, get away from the game a little bit, and then whatever happens, happens. I made it clear I want to be here. He made it clear, and then the White Sox were like, yeah, but that's not how we deal with starting pitching. We don't prioritize starting pitching, and we're not going to do it here. I just don't see that happening. Hey, if they offered Gio a contract extension, fine by me. Somebody to have around in the starting five, which is looking pretty weak if you head into next year. But it's just not how the Sox have done their business. Maybe they'll change, but why would they right now? So again, Giolito's the guy you're watching. Gio's line on Sunday: 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Did have a home run. His ERA 3.45. He threw 90 pitches. It was Santos, Graveman, and Middleton after him, and Graveman with his 1 inning, 1 hit, and 1 run was the problem. But the offense, too, obviously had a huge part in that. Zach Remillard, folk hero, chose to bunt in the 10th inning with the ghost runner at second. That was a choice, and it was his choice. This is what Grifol said. Remillard has always got the option to bunt. That's part of his game. He's a really good bunter. That's probably a way he chose to do that. But he's good at it, so I don't fault him one bit. That's part of his game. That's one way to stay out of a double play. He just bunted it a little too hard to Goldschmidt, who was holding the runner on. That wasn't the game. Actually, it's not a bad idea. Sox offense, 3 runs, 5 hits, double by Robert. Sox struck out 15 times and drew 2 walks, 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Saturday, another rough one. Wow. Sox fell to the Cardinals 3-0. It was the Touki Toussaint game, or the Touki Toussaint era continued. Toussaint's line on Sunday: 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, a 3.86 ERA. Will he be stretched out? Will he be retained and maybe plugged into the starting rotation next year, depending on what happens to Giolito and Lynn? We'll see. But I've enjoyed what I've seen from Touki Toussaint. It was Bummer, Lopez, and Banks after that. Unfortunately for the Sox, Scott Merkin wrote in Toussaint, there wasn't much offense on Saturday, of course. 4 White Sox pitchers combined to strike out 14, with 5 coming from Toussaint. But the White Sox dropped to 0-9 this season in games where they recorded 14-plus strikeouts. I've seen that stat. My jaw dropped when I saw it. I can't wrap my brain around that, how that happens. 0-9 this season in games when they've recorded 14-plus strikeouts. We missed a few pitches that we probably should have hit. We chased a little bit. We've got to get back to the drawing board and continue to work. They'll have some time for that. We've got to make sure we stay in the strike zone, Grifol said. We had a ton of ground balls too, which is what we're trying not to do. We're trying to elevate the baseball. Sometimes it's on us, and sometimes the other guy on the other side did a good job. I'll rewatch that and see what we've got. Good luck rewatching that. That is a tough one. But the same stuff continues to happen. We've been hearing Grifol say this for a while now, going back to April. As we sit here at the break, Sox are 29th and on base percentage. Go back to April 21st from an Athletic article by James Fegan. This was what Grifol said about this, struggling to get on base. Can it change? Yes, it can. Grifol said when asked if the aggressive plate approaches are intractable. Is it a quick change? No, it's not. Is it a lot of work? Yes, because it's not just physical. There's a lot of mental to that, and there's a lot of belief in that. You've got to really believe that you can take borderline pitches that you probably can put in play. But what kind of damage are you going to do if you put them in play? So it takes some time. Again, that was back on April 21st. Here we are. What has changed? What is absolutely, there's damage being done. And it's to the record and it's to everything else. But they haven't learned anything. I mean, maybe Robert has changed and his maybe personal hitting coach or whatever's going on there. That has definitely changed. But the rest of the team as a whole have not. White Sox offense on Saturday, 0 runs, 7 hits, 0 extra base hits, struck out 9 times without drawing a walk, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. That was also Saturday was the Luis Robert Jr. bobblehead day. Not a bad bobblehead to add your collection either with the Southside jersey on. Friday was your bright spot. Sox beat the Cardinals 8-7. What a back and forth game. After erasing a 5-0 deficit, tying the game 7-7, an all-star outfielder, Luis Robert Jr.'s home run in the 7th and going ahead for good when Cardinals' Chris Stratton walked in the game winner that same inning. The Sox have played 500 ball since a grisly 7-21 start. That was James Fegan writing in the Chicago Sun-Times. Good to see him back in action. He's had a couple pieces, but good to see his name on that one. Love what he does, and good to have him back writing. It's been a challenge. Faith has got me through it, and it's going to continue to get me through it. Pedro Grifol said after Friday's win. Dylan Cease was your starter. His line, 6 innings, 11 hits, 5 earned runs, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts. His ERA 4.30. Cease after the game. At the end of the day, wins and losses are the only thing that matter. And obviously, we've come up short in that category. We fought really hard, and we're always in it. It's just that we haven't pulled enough of them out. That's a great, just like stereotypical quote. That's a wonderful one to just always go to. We just haven't pulled enough of them out, or we haven't pulled everything together at the same time. Again, the same things are being said, recycled over and over. But really, what can you say? Sox offense on Friday, 8 runs, 9 hits, 3 doubles, Remillard, Vaughn, Berger, and then home runs from Berger and Luis Robert Jr., who hit his 26th. Michael Kopech weighed in on things after Friday's victory. You can look around and see the talent that's going to be here. There are some guys that may not be here with us, but we know that right now they are helping us. The collective group we've had here, I think we all know what we're capable of. Another good thing to say, what we're capable of. Unfortunately, we haven't lived up to those expectations that we hold ourselves to. Yes, haven't lived up to those expectations. White Sox, the White Sox whisperer, Bob Nightingale, had some things to say. And get ready for Luis Robert Jr. hitting bombs in Seattle. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Want to win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball? Sleeper is now offering up to a 100-time payout or up to 8 quick pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Predict the hottest baseball stats like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy baseball skills. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Swing for the fences with promo code Locked On and sign up. Get that deposit match up to $100 playing Sleeper. The trading game and some news and notes here as we wrap things up. This was from Bob Nightingale's Sunday article in the USA Today. The Texas Rangers, of all teams, have shown interest in the White Sox veteran starter Lance Lynn, who struck out a franchise record 16 batters and 11 batters in two of his last four starts. Lynn is earning $18.5 million this year with an $18.5 million club option or $1 million buyout in 2024. Teams who have inquired say the White Sox continue to have a high asking price for Lance Lynn. Also, Nightingale said general managers believe the top available starters at the trade deadline will be Marcus Stroman, Lucas Giolito, James Paxton, Jordan Montgomery, who we just saw with the Cardinals, Jack Flaherty with the Cardinals, another familiar name, Lance Lynn, of course, Eduardo Rodriguez with the Tigers, Michael Lorenzen, Tigers, and Paul Blackburn, Oakland Athletics. So exciting stuff on Monday. We've got the home run derby, your bright spot for this all-star game weekend. Luis Robert, that number 1 seed, taking on Adley Rutschman, an 8 seed. I like Robert's chances. I really do. He's got an easy swing, and that ball explodes. My worry for Luis Robert Jr. is that he's a first-time participant. And I think with the way things go with this tournament, this bracket-style tournament here, it's a pacing issue. You need to know when to take your timeouts. And, he's going to be so excited and so amped. He's going to want to put on a show, do everything he possibly can while he has an opportunity in round one. But it really, I think you have to, and hopefully he's inquired with some other participants and got some strategies. But man, it's a physical thing. You've got to definitely conserve your energy and pace yourself. But that's tough to do when you're so amped up and you just want to mash and put on a show when you have the opportunity. So excited to see that. Frank Thomas, only White Sox player to win the home run derby. That was back in 1995, ballpark in Arlington out in Texas there. Also, the Major League Baseball draft is going on. Sox had the 15th pick. James Fox from Future Sox will join the podcast later this week, hopefully, to recap everything that the White Sox did. Thanks so much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We're on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get any questions or comments you have into lockedonsox@gmail.com. I think we probably can get in a mailbag episode during this break as well. Sox take on the Atlanta Braves on Friday. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. And hey, everydayers, you know who you are. I do appreciate it. On the next episode, I'll recap Luis Robert Jr. in the home run derby and talk a little MLB draft. Appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.